want you to understand and be aware of this. These are not just statistics that are not a part of the church. These are not just things that, this is not from a worldly point of view. There are people in churches, in pews, that deal with this every day of their lives. That face these issues every day of their lives. What are we doing to be present in the midst of the struggles? What are we doing to be caring, to be compassionate, to be helpful, to provide hope in the midst of those struggles? Do we just say, well, we don't actually talk about that. I'm sorry you're struggling with it, but let's kind of keep it quiet over here. The struggle is real. And there's a reason. There's a reason the number that we lose, the percentage we lose every year, what's the latest, 75%? 75% of the younger generation, there's a reason they're going away. And I'm not talking about going away to prison or going away to chemical abuse centers. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about leaving the church. Because the struggles we face are real. And until we get real about approaching those, and until we get real about dealing with those, we're going to continue to lose. We're going to continue to lose one generation after the next. There's a town that is the furthest north in Alaska. We like Alaska, don't we? In Barrow, Alaska. As we think about this area, when you get to a certain point, that far north, there comes a time where it's the sun never sets. I remember Jason went a few years back and sent me a picture and said, just guess what time of day this is. And I said, I had no idea. It was like 2 or 3 in the morning. It looked like it was in the daytime, right? But there's the opposite of that. There's a time when it's darkness. Josh Ross, a preacher in Memphis, Tennessee, wrote a book titled Re-Entry, and we talked about it a little bit before, but there's a very interesting group of statistics, different from what we just talked about a while ago, but that come from this story. That when he read this article about this city, he went to his publisher and said, I want to write a book about that. And his publisher said, well, guess what? You're going to go live it. You want to write about it? Experience it. He said, so I made this choice to go, and he said, he talks about in the book, when I made a connection flight in Minneapolis, I made a decision that day. He said, I went to Burger King. I bought the biggest value meal they had. He goes, because I didn't know what my food was going to be like. He said, I got everything on it. He said, I was going to be there for 6 hours. He goes, now I don't usually do this. I didn't stay in the airport. I stayed in a hotel 6 hours. He said, I wanted a bed, I wanted a shower, and I wanted a sports center. I didn't know if I'd have all 3 of those when I got to Barrow, Alaska. What's very interesting that is found out from not just specifically about Barrow, but around towns and cities, villages in this area, is the depression rates and the high suicide rates. But it's not the time that we think. It's not the moment when darkness enters the equation. It's re-entering into the sunlight. Because that struggle when the light returns, they'd grown so accustomed to darkness that it was difficult to allow the light to come back into their lives. Turn over to Ephesians chapter 6. In Ephesians chapter 6, as we we think about what's being spoken here. This reminder. I want to pick up in verse 10. This will tie it all in together. Finally, be strong in the Lord and in His mighty power. Put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. Why? For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Therefore, how do we respond to this? Therefore, put on the full armor of God, so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground. And after you have done everything to stand, stand firm, then he says, with the belt of truth buckled around your waist, with the breastplate of righteousness in place, and with your feet fitted with readiness that comes from the gospel of peace. In addition to all of this, take up the shield of faith, with which you can extinguish all the flaming arrows of evil. Take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God. And pray in the Spirit on all occasions with all kinds of prayers and requests. With this in mind, be alert and always keep on praying for all the saints. Pray also for me that whenever I open my mouth, words may be given so that I will fearlessly make known the gospel, the mystery of the gospel, for which I am an ambassador in chains. Pray that I may declare it fearlessly as I should. The struggle we face every day of our lives, is not something that we can just sweep under a rug. It's not something that we can just forget about, because the struggle will always be there. It's how we respond in those moments that makes all the difference. It's how we react in those moments that makes all the difference. That we understand, that we remember, that we are aware that yes, the devil is going to do everything he can to remind us that we are weak, to remind us that we are sinful, to remind us that we can do nothing on our own. But may we never forget in this moment, as we suit up as soldiers of Christ, as we sing about this morning, and as we stand up for truth, may we never forget that as strong as the devil thinks he is, our God is more powerful, our God is stronger, and our God has already defeated him. Our God has already conquered that battle, and we live every day as the redeemed. We live every day as the blessed. And when we have brothers or sisters that are struggling, we understand that God's command to love our neighbor, to love God with everything we have, is even that neighbor that we may not understand, that neighbor that we may not agree with, that neighbor that may not look like us, walk like us, talk like us, but they are created in God's image. And it is up to us, the redeemed, the blessed, the forgiven, those who are filled with the grace, those who are filled with the presence of God's Spirit, to face those struggles every day and help them, to hold their hand, to walk with them, to lead them, to teach them, to remember the God who is ever faithful, who is ever present, whether it's waves that are coming up against the boat, whether it's the understanding those statistics that are very real in this life, whether it's understanding light and darkness and dealing with these things. When we face the struggles every day with the power of God and we're suited up as soldiers of God, we can win this battle. Amen? I think it comes down to this fact. And I'm wound up, my heart's racing. Why are we fighting a battle like we're already losing? The battle has already been won. Let's live as victors. Let's live as those who have won. Not question when we go into this battle, how are we going to win? But may we remember that we have won. And may we remind Satan of that simple song that we sing. My God is so big, so strong and so mighty. There's nothing that God cannot do. You know, there's something so simplistic in those kids' songs that we sing that I think when we're no longer a kid, we tend to forget the message. It still applies. Our God is so big, so strong, and so mighty. There's nothing that God cannot do. The struggle is real. So is the God who rose from the grave. The struggle is real. And so is the God who walks with us. The struggle is real. And so is the victory that is found. Let's pray. Father God, God, we know that we face battles every day. And sometimes in the midst of those battles, we bring out questions that we don't even know what we're asking. That in hindsight we look back and we know the answers to that question. God, it comes with us approaching those struggles in a different way. May we understand there's not just a generation, but generations who are being fed lies, who are being told that they're worthless, who are being told that they're weak, who are being told that we don't talk about those things, and if you're going to talk about them, then it's going to be difficult for us to live in fellowship with them. May the lies end now. And may we understand that the struggle is real. May we suit up every day with all that you provide. Thank you. It's in your Son's name we pray. So that's the challenge. The challenge is for us to not lose sight of the struggles that are present, but also for us to understand that victory is found in Jesus, that victory, that hope, that mercy, that grace, that comfort is found in a relationship with Him. And yes, as we face those battles every day, may we go into those battles with the strength that God provides. May we suit up and realize that there is an expectation from us as His people to show the world His truth. But listen, if we're going to show the world His truth, we need to know what it's about. And we struggle too. We face temptations, we face battles. It doesn't matter how old you are or how young you feel, right? We face battles. The struggle is real. And so is our God. If today you desire to begin a relationship with that God, to surrender all that you have, lay it at His feet, and allow Him to fill you with His Spirit, so that in all situations and in all occasions, all moments of this life, we can go into those seasons of life, into those days, weeks, months, years. Some it seems like a decade. But we can face them as those who live victorious. Maybe you've already taken that step, but struggles are just too hard. Surrender to Him. Trust Him. We can help you in any way. Please come as we stand.
Unto the old Lord.